All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength Power. So I want to talk about a bodybuilding show that was one of the best and toughest lineups in bodybuilding history, and it was not a Mr. Olympia competition. It was not an Arnold Classic competition, but it was the 1999 British Grand Prix. Now, the reason this competition is considered one of the fiercest lineups of all time, one of the toughest and one of the best, is because there were so many top-level competitors, top-level Olympians, that many people believe showed up at the 1999 British Grand Prix at their all-time best and at their all-time freakiest, best conditioning outside of the Olympia. And some of these guys, just over the course of their career, people will say they look the best of all time at this show. So there were a total of 18 competitors, but let's start by going through the top six here to show you guys how deep this lineup really was. So in sixth place, we had Nasser El Sambadi. So the year prior at the Olympia, Nasser was third place at the Olympia, and the year before that, Nasser was runner-up to Dorian Yates in 1997. So Mr. Olympia runner-up can barely crack the top six at this show. Now, placing fifth at this show was Milos Sarcev. So Milos has been on record as saying that in 1999, he was at his biggest and best package ever and received fifth place at this show. He says this show was the most he ever weighed on stage, and he put a lot of time into that prep, and he got fifth. So the surprise of this show was probably the fourth place finisher, Dexter Jackson. So obviously Dexter is a familiar face in today's bodybuilding scene, but in 1999, he had just made his pro debut at the Arnold Classic that same year, the British Grand Prix being his second show ever. So he was very happy with that $4,000 cash prize and that fourth place finish. Dexter Jackson obviously looking amazing at this show. Now, taking third at this show is the seemingly immortal Kevin Levrone. Now, at this show, Kevin Levrone, in my opinion, was one of the fullest and roundest and biggest Kevin Levrones we had ever seen. I mean, this guy's most muscular, his side chest, his delts, his arms, everything was just crazy full, crazy round, and his conditioning, he just nailed it. Kevin Levrone's package at the 1999 British Grand Prix was one of the best Kevin Levrones we ever saw, and he placed third. So placing second at this show would be Flex Wheeler, who had also placed second at the 1999 Mr. Olympia to Ronnie Coleman as well. So Flex Wheeler always looked amazing on stage. He was always very pleasing and very aesthetic looking. But at this particular show, his conditioning, in my opinion, he nailed it. He looked amazing at this show. Arguably, he could have won, but he took second to an amazing Ronnie Coleman, who took first and took home $10,000 at this show. Ronnie Coleman just looking insanely massive at the 1999 British Grand Prix. Now let's talk about some of the guys that were in this show and couldn't crack the top six to talk about how competitive this show was. In seventh place, you had Marcus Rule, obviously one of the best bodybuilders of the late 90s and early 2000s, one of the biggest and freakiest mass monsters to come out of that era. He could not even crack the top six at this show, and this wasn't even a Mr. Olympia competition. Then if you go all the way down to 16th place, you have Pierre Fuchs, who was another early era mass monster from the 1990s. He couldn't even place within the top 10 at this show. Then all the way down in 17th, you have Gustavo Bedell, who would go on to be a top 3 Olympian in the early 2000s. So I just think this show was worthy of a video because I think when you look at the 90s and you look at the great physiques that came out of the 1990s, this show really had the best of all of those guys, and all of those guys were on point. Not a single one of those top guys, Kevin Levrone, Flex Wheeler, Ronnie Coleman, Milos, not a single one of them were off, and they all looked insane, and they were all going to battle on this stage, and it wasn't even the Olympia. And I think some of the photographs from this show that you're looking at in this video are some of the greatest photographs from 90s bodybuilding of these aesthetic, crazy conditioned, but still crazy round and full physiques. And I just think this was one of the greatest shows of all time. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about the 1999 British Grand Prix. Thank you guys for watching the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.